My Lords, in associating myself with all of the preceding speeches, I too pay tribute to Lady Ainley's admirable leadership of the International Relations Defence Committee, on which I was privileged to serve under her chairmanship. I draw attention to my non-financial interests. Writ large across the committee's report is the age-old Latin adage that if you want peace, you should prepare for war. Part of that preparation must be the minimising of dependency, the strengthening of national resilience, and solidarity in strong alliances, most notably NATO and AUKUS. Although I'll concentrate on the threat posed to the free world by the People's Republic of China, and especially the Chinese Communist Party, in parenthesis, I would like to ask the Noble Baroness, the Minister, for an update on one of the findings in our report referred to by the Noble Baroness, Lady Ainley, that the £5.5 billion Ajax project, now 10 years late, has left a yawning gap in our defence capability, with a recent report blaming concealment and infighting between factions in the ministry. A leading article in the Times only this week was headed, I quote, "Government complacency about defence resembles that of the 1930s. General Sir Patrick Sanders described our capability, I quote, as rotary dial telephones in an iPhone age. In the context of reports that in a hot war the army would run out of ammunition in days, how does the government respond to those charges and the urgent need to address manufacturing capacity referred to by my noble and gallant friend in his really important speech, and the issue of replenishment referred to by the Noble Baroness, Lady Ainley? My Lords, in the light of last weekend's mutiny and the appalling possibility that a convict-turned-mercenary warlord could take control of Russia's nuclear and biological arsenal, including nerve agents, what can the Noble Baroness tell us about Wagner's continuing threat in Europe and in Africa, referred to by the Noble Lord Boateng? And I associate myself especially with what he had to say, but particularly in the context of Sudan, and ask the Noble Baroness, why have we still failed to proscribe Wagner? In reflecting on the weakening of Putin and the law of unintended consequences in Ukraine, the Chinese Communist Party needs to understand that when you trigger a war, the outcome can never be certain. While there's much to admire about China's rich culture and its heritage, the entrepreneurship of its peoples, and the contribution it's made to the world, Xi Jinping's Chinese Communist Party regime poses a threat to us all. This is an important distinction. In two reports, the IR&D Committee has made clear that the UK's response to that threat represents, our words, a strategic void, what Lord Patton of Barnes calls cakeism, trying to have your cake and eat it. One slice of the government's cake is iced with the words that the CCP regime represents the most significant geopolitical factor in the world today, quote. But another slice is iced with business as usual, exemplified by the recent ministerial meeting with Liu Jianchao, a CCP operative responsible for the shocking operations Fox Hunt and Skynet, and with another minister going to Hong Kong to deepen business links, while 1,200 lawmakers and pro-democracy activists, such as the British citizen Jimmy Lai, are incarcerated by a regime accused by the House of Commons of genocide against the Uyghur Muslims. Earlier this week, I met Peter Humphreys, a British national and former Reuters foreign correspondent who became a due diligence investigator with 48 years of experience in China. He and his wife were locked up in outrageous conditions in a Chinese prison, experiencing detention and psychological torture, and witnessing prison labour being used in the supply chains of global multinational brands. Why are we so silent about cases like this? In addressing the strategic void, can the Noble Baroness tell us when the Prime Minister is going to respond to the Intelligence and Security Committee China report, and what has caused the delay? Threats come in spy balloons, in cyberspace and space technology, and surveillance cameras trained on government buildings, including army barracks, Sandringham, and even MI6. Intimidation, threats, and violence directed towards critics of the regime abroad, including Hong Kongers now resident in the UK who have escaped, and indeed to parliamentarians. And I declare an interest as one of the 7 who have been sanctioned. And on the battlefields of illegally invaded Ukraine, the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. On the 6th of June, China and Russia conducted a joint aerial patrol over the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea, the 3rd such joint air patrol since Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. They've confirmed they'll be holding further joint military drills this year. The CCP is not a neutral bystander, but a clear ally and accomplice to Putin's war in Ukraine. As part of this committee's inquiry, the Noble Baroness Lady Ainley, the Noble Lord Anderson and I were briefed on a joint military exercise in the Gulf involving China, Russia and Iran, something of an unholy trinity. While AUKUS is a significant step in strengthening our ability to defend allies and interests in the Asia-Pacific region, I would ask the Noble Baroness for the government's current assessment of the threats to Taiwan and what steps the UK and its allies are taking both to prevent an escalation and to prepare for the possibility of one. A military invasion of Taiwan by China would have truly catastrophic consequences, not only for the region but for the world. Taiwan, my lords, is a vibrant democracy that shares our values of human rights and the rule of law. It has never been part of the People's Republic of China, something I would like to have heard the Defence Secretary say to the committee. It is of vital economic and geopolitical importance. The Taiwan Strait is the main shipping route from China, Japan, South Korea and Taiwan to Europe and to the US. According to Bloomberg, almost half the world's container ships and 88% of larger container ships transited the Taiwan Strait in 2022. It holds a crucial position in the global supply chain due to its manufacturing capabilities. It produces over 60% of the world's semiconductors and over 90% of the most advanced semiconductors, the chips that power our electric gadgets. Any attempt by the CCP to seize Taiwan by force would plunge the world into an economic and perhaps literal dark age. It's therefore in our national interest to do everything possible to prevent such a catastrophe. And that surely means doing 2 things: strengthening our relations with Taiwan and being clear to the CCP what would happen if they did invade. When will we act on Sir Ian Duncan-Smith's call for an economic impact analysis of a potential blockade or invasion of Taiwan? It was clear from an answer to a parliamentary question from him that none has been done so far. Why not? And one other question. Next month we'll sign the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Good. Will we encourage the accession of Taiwan to the CPTPP, as well as Taiwan's acceptance, even if only with observer status, to the World Health Organization and World Health Assembly? What's the government's response to yesterday's call by the New Zealand Prime Minister that China should be allowed to join the CPTPP? And finally, my lords, on Monday, BBC Panorama broadcast a powerful film detailing the extent of China's espionage and infiltration activities. These range from Hikvision cameras to infiltration of university programs involving national defence. There is a threat without and a threat from within. Minister, please tell us what we're going to do to counter that threat, to de-risk any business and trade with China, to diversify our supply chains, to reduce strategic dependency in everything from dominance in lithium to electric cars, to deter an invasion of Taiwan, and to strengthen our defences militarily, economically and technologically to confront the growing threats to come. Yeah.